Share the love. Daniel, you're my brother. I heard it in a song. Sweet little sister, I sang, you danced along. Universal language, it reaches us in song. What does it mean when love is the underlying theme? 'Cause love is the answer. I share this thought with you, and in return, just some gratitude, and some of your love in return would be so sweet. So come on, people, share the love with me. Listen to your mother, cherish your father, break bread together, celebrate forever. Appreciate this time, weave your dreams, don't be blind. What does this mean when love is the underlying theme? 'Cause love is the answer. I share this thought with you, and in return, just some gratitude, and some of your love in return would be so sweet. So come on, people, share the love with me. 'Cause love is the answer. I share this thought with you, and in return, just some gratitude, some of your love in return would be so sweet. So come on, people, share the love with me. 'Cause love is the answer. Oh, I share this thought with you, and in return, just some gratitude, and some of your love in return would be so sweet. So come on, people, share the love with me. Share the love. Daniel, you're my brother. I heard it in a song. Sweet little sister, I sang, you danced along. Universal language, it reaches us in song. What does it mean when love is the underlying theme? 'Cause love is the answer. I share this thought with you, and in return, return just some gratitude, and some of your love in return would be so sweet. So come on, people, share the love with me. Listen to your mother, cherish your father, break bread together, celebrate forever. Appreciate this time. Wave your dreams, don't be blind. What does this mean? Well, love is the underlying theme. 'Cause love is the answer. I share this thought with you, and in return, just some gratitude, and some of your love in return would be so sweet. So come on, people, share the love with me. 'Cause love is the answer. I share this thought with you, and in return, just some gratitude. Some of your love in return would be so sweet. So come on, people, share the love with me. 'Cause love is the answer. Oh, I share this thought with you, and in return, just some gratitude, and some of your love in return would be so sweet. So come on, people, share the love with me.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and happy Mother's Day to everyone. At some point in our lives, we have all mothered somebody or something. So thank you so much for joining us. Happy spring, beautiful day here in Denver. I'm not sure where else we're all hearing from, but thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alice Nutter, a practitioner here at Center for Spiritual Living Denver, and I want to welcome you to our live online service. We are a loving, expansive, powerful, and prosperous community in the heart of Capitol Hill and here online at this time. Our primary concern is always for the well-being, support, and growth of our community, and we are so grateful that you have chosen to join us today to watch our service. We plan on being here every week on our virtual platform so that we can encourage and uplift each other. And now for some announcements. We will continue to meet online at least through May. We will determine in June based on what everybody is saying. So we want to make sure first and foremost that our congregation is protected and well taken care of. If you have, in the meantime, if you have any ideas that you want to share with us, please email us at info@cslddenver.org and let us know what we can do, how we can do it better, whatever works for you. And we will be having a virtual fellowship right after service via Zoom, and you will need to RSVP by emailing info@cslddenver.org, and Amy will be sending you an invite, and you can join us. And it's been so wonderful these past several weeks to get to see each other and laugh and giggle and just reconnect. Even though we can't hug each other, we can do virtual hugs. And in support of Pride Month, we will be making a donation to support this year's Pride celebration, which is scheduled to be held online. This is their biggest annual fundraiser, and we want to help to support this program and community. And in these changing times, the CSL Denver board would like to extend a helping hand where we can. If any of our congregants are in need of help or support, we are ready to help where we can. Please send an email labeled confidential, again, to info@csldenver.org, and let us know how we can be of assistance, and someone will reach out to you. And additionally, the board has voted to donate $200 to a local food bank in the Capitol Hill community. If there are any other places that you might have suggestions or ideas about, please let us know. And now back to Freddie. Thank you. And thank you, Freddie, for that Share the Love song. It's gorgeous.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. Tu es l'image de Dieu. I hold you in my heart. Tu es l'image de l'amour. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. Tu sei la luce di Dio. I hold you in my heart. Tu sei il volto dell'amore. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. In my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of love. The face of love. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of God. The face of God. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are a part of me. A part of me. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God. Eres la luz de Dios. I hold you in my heart. Eres la cara del amor. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. 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 La luce di Dio. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God. L'image de Dieu. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
Good morning, everyone. Let us begin with a prayer. Taking a deep breath, let go. We are all the face of God, each one of us. And as we take in this deep breath, we know that we take in the breath of life, the breath that keeps us moving, thinking, being in this human existence. And on this holy day, we bless all the mothers in the world. Each one of us, our own mothers, knowing that they have raised us with their hearts, from their hearts. From our heart, we give thanks. Know that this service is blessed. Blessed all the people that are involved in this service. We bless Reverend Marc, Alice, Reverend Robert, Reverend Elzia, all the congregants and the practitioners, knowing that as we come from the heart, our words are fulfilled, knowing that on this blessed day, we enter this service with joy, with expectation, knowing that all good is here and now. And together we say, so it is. Most of us were raised and educated to use our minds to guide us through life's questions and uncertainties. We were never taught in school to listen to our intuition, and certainly never told this nugget of wisdom that to find your own way in the world, the only compass you need is the one already inside you. But it's not between the ears. It's only when you listen to your deepest instincts and follow your heart that you will discover the path to a life of purpose, passion, and fulfillment. Albert Einstein said, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant." We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." And from our founder, Ernest Holmes, "There must be, and there is, a universal consciousness which directly responds to man's thought and is in contact with it. Not only does the human heart long for such a possibility, but the human mind comprehends, understands, senses, feels, and knows it. When the heart longs for and the mind comprehends, there is an influx of divine ideas stimulating the will to divine purposefulness." And now we are pleased to bring Freddie back for more heartfelt music.
Beautiful mothers out there. I would like to thank Denver CSL for letting me write and perform my original music for you all. Coming up now is a brand new Mother's Day song. It's called You're Beautiful to Me. Hope you like it. After my new song, we're going to bring up Reverend Marc Gilbert. Sound of your heartbeat feels sweet to me. Oh, the sound you're feeling, forever speaking, is guiding. Beautiful to me. You're beautiful, can't you see? Because of you, I came to be. Your touch, yes, it calmed me, inspiring, divinely. Your wisdom forever guiding. You've never doubted me. I desire thee. You're beautiful to me. You're beautiful, can't you see? Because of you, I came to be. You're beautiful. The sun is guiding. Oh, beautiful to me. You're beautiful, can't you see? You're beautiful, I can't be. You're beautiful to me.
Good morning, everybody. And Freddie, your music is beautiful to us. That was a gorgeous song. I really loved it. And thank you for the heart and all that you do and bring to CSL Denver and everywhere that you go. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Marc Gilbert. I am, for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Global Services Coordinator for the Home Office for Centers for Spiritual Living up in Genesee, working with our global communities around the world and working to bring the works of Ernest Holmes and other New Thought books out into other languages other than English. It's a great and wonderful job that I have. And I also do a number of other things. I also publish a website called Conscious Bridge, a YouTube channel where I've got a lot of YouTube videos out there you might be interested in. And my latest video, which I posted yesterday, is part of a series where I'm looking at the Ernest Holmes book, The Basic Ideas of Science of Mind. Yesterday's video was about thinking and your health is part of an ongoing series where we're going through that entire book. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to check it out by going to my website, marcgilbert.us, marcgilbert.us, and on the center of the page is a link that will take you right to the YouTube page. And it's great to be back with you. For many of you who do know me, you know that I've been here a number of times in the recent months. I think the last time I was here was back in the end of February, before all of this pandemic stuff and social distancing started. There's a term that I don't think I ever used until this year, which is social distancing. But now we use it almost on a daily basis. It's kind of interesting. But it's great to be back with you and with this community, and especially on Mother's Day. I know we've heard it from Alice and Rumi and through the music of Freddie, but I just want to reiterate that today we really truly honor mothers, stepmothers, grandmothers, and anyone who has ever acted in the role of guiding someone as a mother towards adulthood and the fulfillment of their highest potential as a human being. There's no more sacred work that a mother can do, a person can do, than to assist a young being on this planet to the development of a fully functioning and well-adjusted and happy and prospering adult. So thank you for all your service and all that you've done. I hope you have a great and wonderful Mother's Day today. Our theme today, our talk title is Listen to Your Heart. And it's perfect for Mother's Day because it's been said that the first senses that are developing within these physical forms of us as humans is in the embryo and is sound. And that the first sound an embryo hears is a mother's heartbeat. The heartbeat, which we've often referenced as the voice of the heart, is a primal, and it's in each and every one of us. All of us knows that heartbeat sound, and it's something in us that calls us to that. And through that, we know and teach through the science of mind that it's the heart that maintains the wisdom and guidance of the divine. It's where we go and listen to hear our intuition, and through our intuitive knowingness to recognize truths that are beyond rational knowing. When we can listen and pay attention to our hearts, then we hear the divine call upon us. And so for this day, our reminder is for us to listen to our hearts. And when we do so, we know that we are hearing the love and wisdom of the divine. What I'd like to do is start this morning by going through 3 quotes from Ernest Holmes, our founder. The first quote comes from our statement of principles. This is something where when Ernest was asked back in the 1920s if he could outline what we believe as part of science of mind, he basically wrote out a series of statements that all began with "we believe." I think there's around 11 of them, and 2 of them are really relevant for our message today. On the screen you see it says, "We believe that heaven is within us, that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. Also, we believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone can become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God." Beautiful. The next quote I want to look at comes from the Science of Mind glossary. Now, this is in the back of the textbook, and it's a definition of the word intuition. And one of the key things that when you're reading the glossary, each of his sentences, you need to really pause between them for a moment, because it's not an idea that's normally being run through each sentence as a continuous thread, but sometimes the sentences in the glossary stand alone. But here Holmes writes that intuition is God in man, revealing to him the realities of being. Just as instinct guides the animal, so would intuition guide man if he would allow it to operate through him. Intuition is also the ability to know without the process of reasoning. And then finally he concludes it by saying, God knows only intuitively. The third quote today comes from Living the Science of Mind. This was one I was drawn to in preparing for this morning. Holmes wrote, "The real creative power of the mind is deeper than the intellect. It passes into the realm of feeling and acceptance. Yet it is the intellect or self-conscious faculties that must speak the word in order that every obstruction may be cleared away. We could coin no better expression than to say that God speaks to the heart through a language of feeling which is affirmative. Now, as we look at those particular quotes and reflect upon them for a moment, what we realize that Holmes is saying, he's given us several messages. One is that there is a way that we can tap into and hear the wisdom of God. Not only do we hear and sense God's or Spirit's messages to us through the events in our life and the patterns that are developed around us, but that we can tap into that wisdom by listening to and touching into our hearts and hearing our intuitive voice, hearing that intuitive nature that flows through us. When we can do so, we are tapping into wisdom and guidance that can come from beyond these forms. And that wisdom is always there for us to tap into. Now, as I reflected on these three quotes, a number of thoughts came up for me regarding the points that I wanted to make today. And there is a number of points, and I'm making them up front, so you'll already have them. But one is, yes, we need to listen to our hearts and we need to listen to our intuition. And that this is a primal force that is within us through this heartbeat and the nature of our hearts that flow through us. But also as humans, logic and reasoning are an essential gift to us. That they've given humanity a lot of gifts through our growth, both personally and collectively, and through the process of our evolving and evolution. So hence, logic and reasoning are an essential part of our humanness and shouldn't be discarded when we're listening to our hearts. We should honor and cherish the skills of critical thinking that are within us and continue to develop them in our humanness and use them in concert with the intuitive knowingness that comes from our hearts. Many in our culture especially see the material world as the only thing that's real. That the goal of life is to gain power, to have material success, and to only hear and listen to the messages that come through rational thinking and scientific thought. Many of us and many people around us can be very much stuck within our heads. But it's often described that we need to move from our heads into our hearts. It's often said that distance from our head to our heart is one of the longest and hardest paths to traverse, because it really is something that we can get mired in logical thinking and deny the fact that there's intuitive knowingness that's available through us. So I'm inviting you this day to open up your hearts and to listen to your hearts. And I know that if you are open to the Science of Mind teaching, this is not new news to you. This is simply a reminder that this wisdom is continuously there for us, and that our goal should be a melding of the heart and the head as we navigate through life. It's interesting that this message comes up for me today, that this is the theme for today, because one of the things that I've been doing during these pandemic times is going back and doing a lot of reading. Now, I don't want to give you the wrong impression. I've been reading a lot of fiction, some murder mysteries and things of that nature too. So I'm binge watching Netflix and other things. And so just like everyone else, I'm not mired in spiritual stuff, but I do like to take some time during this time of the pandemic and the time of being isolated at home and read some spiritual books. And one of the ones that's been calling to me is to go back and to read the words of Sri Aurobindo. Now, Aurobindo was a fairly famous Indian spiritual teacher and mystic who lived in India in the first half of the 20th century. And he is well known for having created what he calls integral yoga, where he is melding both sides of us, the outside intellectual side and the inner knowingness side, the inner spiritual side. His best known book is a book called The Life Divine. I'm holding it up here so you can see the size of it. This is over 1,000 pages, and it's his most well-known book. It's been said that our founder, Ernest Holmes, in his later years, read this book completely through once each year in order to better glean and absorb the teachings of Aurobindo. I'm going to show you where my bookmark is. Looks very impressive, but I want you to know I stuck that in there this morning right at that spot. And where I am in this book is not quite that far. And in fact, I'm going through this book in concert with another book that's the Essential Teachings of Aurobindo, and bouncing back and forth between the two to try to really help me absorb what he's been saying. And what I've been getting from the first part of his teaching is that he begins by outlining how all of us, how you and I and all of humanity have aspirations. We have aspirations for our individual life and for our collective lives. There is something that is calling us to a greater and grander expression, and that includes an impulse towards perfection in our lives, towards truth and understanding, towards bliss and happiness, towards a secret desire within us for immortality, to recognize that that entity that we call ourselves transcends these physical bodies that we walk around in. Each of us has, at some basic aspect of ourselves, an essential desire to transcend this physical nature and to continue on as this person or entity or personality that we call ourselves beyond this time of physical form. So all of us have these aspirations, says Aurobindo. But the problem comes into the fact that as we move towards these aspirations, we struggle with what he calls disharmony. That there is a disharmony between two opposing forces or two opposing ideas that can get in our way. And that the biggest disharmony that comes up is the tension between recognizing that we have these divine lives that transcend these physical forms, and to live in this physical life that can be very mesmerizing for us. That we go through our lives of day-to-day affairs, and things out there tend to grab our senses and take our attention, and we tend to talk about them and give them energy, and all of the external stuff tends to be that things that demand us. But inside, there's also this inner knowingness, this intuition, this heart energy that we've been talking about, that really moves us to a state of knowing that we are more than these bodies. And so what Aurobindo recognized, that there's two basic camps of people in the world that he lived in. One camp is probably much more prevalent in the Western world, and especially in the United States, and that is the people that he calls those that deny that there is anything such as spirit, that they say matter is the only thing that is real, and there is no inner divine life. That all we can know is through rational thinking, through scientific learning, by all of the logical thoughts of humanity, can we actually know something. We know this because in our culture in the United States, this is something that's very much ingrained within us, is to know that. But Aurobindo says there are two great negations. By negating spirit, by the materialistic mindset, is only one side of the coin. But he actually lived in India, where there was a prevalence for the other denial, the denial of the material, with an emphasis towards the spiritual being all that was real. And he recognized that that wasn't valid either. And so in his integral yoga, what he was attempting to do was to recognize that both matter in the physical and the inner world and the spiritual are both real. That the two ways of knowing, the outer way of rational thought and scientific knowledge, is valid, but so is the inner knowingness, the intuitive understanding, listening to our hearts and spirit. That both are valid for us. And somewhere along the way, we need to bring the two together. We need to bridge them. Aurobindo called us and called humanity transitional beings. Transitional because he recognized that we were the bridge between the head and the heart, between the material world and the spiritual world. That it wasn't an either or, it was an and. And so each of us are called in this day to bring the and together, to recognize that we are both sides of these two coins. You know, I think almost every time I come and talk to Centers for Spiritual Living Denver, I always use the phrase that we are spiritual beings having a material experience. And I also use the description that we walk around in these worlds with a foot in two worlds, that we have one foot in our spiritual world and one foot in the material physical world. And that we shift back and forth in our day-to-day affairs, living in both of these two worlds simultaneously. The trick is to not get mired in only one, and to recognize the value and beauty that both bring to our lives, and to uplift both our material existence and to be knowing in our spiritual side as well. And that's where we are. And I think that when we can move to that space of being both material and physical, that there is a recognition of the unity of everything, that we bring our spiritual nature into the material world, and our understanding of the material world can grow and evolve our spiritual nature as well. And so as we bring these two together, we recognize that everything is one, and that we are also called in us to not be some sort of ascetic monk that sits back and does nothing in the world of form, but we're called to be a change agent, called to be someone who expresses ourselves and our gifts and talents in this physical world. So as I move into today's conclusion, what I'd like to do is to speak just a little bit about the pandemic and to listen to our hearts and our heads as we move through this interesting time and challenge that's in our lives. One of the things that I know that I've heard from many people over the last few weeks is that there is this description of us moving towards some new normal. There's a recognition that we're going to come out of this and go back to a state of normal, but it won't be like the normal we had before. That there is something being birthed in us, in humanity and in us individually, that's called forth to express something greater. I know that I've done some videos on this on my YouTube channel, and there's also one of my recent blogs was on this topic. But what I'd like to invite you to do as you're listening to these words this morning is I want to bring to you the words from the Denver Post yesterday. This is from May 9th. And as I read these words, I want you to sit here with an open heart. And what does it say to you as you hear this description? There was an article in yesterday's paper that talked about the fact that in the month of April, close to 21 million jobs have been lost across the United States. And in the article, it said in part, the 20.5 million jobs lost in April fell disproportionately on African Americans, Latinos, low-wage workers, and people with no college education. Friday's job report from the government, the worst on record, exposed the deep seams of inequity within the world's wealthiest nation and the threat they pose to an eventual economic recovery. Goes on to say, African Americans are more likely to die from the virus. Latinos and non-college graduates are heavily concentrated in low-wage occupations, including jobs that have helped keep the nation fed and safe during this pandemic. Those groups were also among the first to lose their jobs as the economy crashed at a speed unrivaled in American history. For April, while the overall U.S. unemployment reached 14.7%, the rate for African Americans was 16.7%. For Latinos, 18.9%. For workers with only high school diploma, 17.3%. For immigrants, 16.5%. By contrast, the unemployment rate for whites was 14.2% and 8.4% for college graduates, who often enjoy the flexibility of being able to work from home during these times. It also said that Latinos suffer disproportionately from the layoffs because they're more likely to work in leisure and hospitality sectors. The article goes on from there with a number of other inequities, but it concludes by saying the vast magnitude of the layoffs is laid bare the inequities that have endured long before the viral outbreak. You know, in my mind, these times have been like a great pause button where we've paused, and for many of us, we've only been minorly inconvenienced by the pandemic. We've had to stay at home. We're doing things new. We're on Zoom. We're on church services online. Minor inconveniences compared to those who are struggling with loss of jobs or death and illness through the pandemic. And as we sit here and contemplate the new normal, and as our hearts are open to that new normal, what I invite you to, as we close today and as we go into prayer, is for you to remember your role in bringing forth that new normal. What is it within your heart as you listen to it and as you listen to these statistics that you are called to be and do as you move forward in creating this greatest world possible and one that works for all? Listen to your heart and then act from your logic. Let's pray. As we move into this state of oneness within our awareness, knowing that there's only one life, one power, one divine essence that moves in and through us, we know that this entire universe, the universe of form and the universe of the non-form, is all one. And that we are a special pocket of energy and consciousness within this oneness, that we are called forth to be moving through this world of form with logic and science and knowingness of all that humanness brings to us, but to also stay anchored in our spiritual nature, and to bring forth that spiritual wisdom through the intuition. We listen to our hearts this day, knowing that God speaks to us through that heartbeat and through those heart messages. And I know that as we meld our heads and our hearts, as we meld our sense of material and physical life and humanness with our spiritual lives, that we each in our own way listen to that intuitive knowingness that calls us to bring forth the greatest and highest in both our individual lives and for this planet. I know that as we move through this time of challenge with the pandemic, that we come out of it with a newness that celebrates not only us individually and our special gifts and talents that we bring to the planet, but that we bring those gifts and talents in a manner that brings forth that new state of normal and brings us ever and ever closer upward on that spiral of life to creating a world that works for all. I know this is good. And I know that anyone who's struggling during this time is surrounded by love, support, and comfort. That there is a complete healing that is occurring through all of this. And that this time is a true and perfect gift for us. So for all of this and so much more, I just simply give thanks. I release these words into the law, knowing they're so. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Reverend Marc. Very, very powerful talk, and a lot of food for thought and ways to listen to our heart. Thank you. And we are so grateful for everyone's support of CSL Denver, whether it's in time, treasure, or talent, and especially during this time of change. Whether this is your first time joining us or you're a returning community member, we want to thank you for your continuing financial support of the important work we are striving to provide. Right now, there are many ways you can support Center for Spiritual Living Denver with contributions. With a credit card, you can use your cell phone or device to send a text. You can text to 844-454-0918. And then you just type in give and the amount of money. You don't need to do a dollar sign or anything, just give and the amount. As always, you can also go to our website, www.csldenver.org, and there you can see a donate button in the lower right-hand corner, and you can give that way. And if you would prefer, you can mail an offering to our post office box, so you can send your check to P.O. Box 300416, P.O. Box 300416, and that's Denver, Colorado 80203. And we are now set up with King Soopers and with Amazon Smile, where many of us shop. Simply link your account to Center for Spiritual Living Denver, and when you conduct your normal shopping, a percentage of all proceeds will come to your center, to our center. Email us if you would like more information. Reverend Robert has put up on the screen the logos for those. And then finally, we are so blessed to have you as a member of our community. Know that showing up and being with us in spirit and in body provides us so much. It's just such a gift to us. So please repeat with me our spiritual affirmation as you give this, as we do every week. This perfect gift is spirit in form, circulating and blessing all that it touches. Freely I give, and joyously I receive, and so it is. And now back to Freddie. Thank you. Sorry, Karen Drucker. And thank you to Karen.
These are the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, are you ready to receive all the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace? Gifts of the goddess, are you ready to receive? Love, are you ready? Joy, are you ready? Peace, are you ready? Are you ready to receive? These are the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, I am ready to receive all the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, I am ready to receive. Love, I am ready. Are you ready? Joy, joy, I am ready. Are you ready? Peace, peace, I am ready. Are you ready? I am ready to receive. These are the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Talking about gifts of the goddess, I am ready to receive all the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, I am ready to receive. Compassion, are you ready? I am ready. Forgiveness, are you ready? I am ready. Laughter, are you ready? I am ready. I am ready to receive. Passion, are you ready? I am ready. Success, Athena, are you ready? Well, I am ready. Abundance, are you ready? Yes, I am ready. I am ready to receive. These are the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, I am ready to receive all the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, I am ready to receive. I am ready. I am ready. I am ready, ready to receive. Yes, I am ready to receive. Oh, I am ready to receive. All the gifts, 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 all the gifts.
And yes, a very special thank you to Karen Drucker for letting us share her music online during this time. And also a very special thank you to Freddie for his creativity and his beautiful song for us. And a very special thank you to Reverend Mark. What a powerful talk today. And we want to thank you so much. And Rumi, as always, we love you. So anyway, Reverend Elzia and I are starting a class this Wednesday night at 6:30 online through Zoom. It's called Keys to Expanding Consciousness. And if you are interested, it will be from 6:30 to 8:30 for 4 Wednesdays. And there is a suggested love offering of $20, and we still have room in the class. So please join us if you're able to. And if you are interested in the class, please send an email to info@cslddenver.org and say that you're interested in the class, and we will send you the booklet and an invitation to the Zoom meeting. And if you have a few extra hours on your hands right now, do you think that you have talent and or time that you would like to share with Center for Spiritual Living Denver in some way? We are looking for volunteers to help support CSL Denver in areas such as web design, treasury, places on the board. So if you're interested, we would love to have you and we would love to talk. Again, email us at info@csldenver.org. Thank you. And in these changing times, as I mentioned at the beginning of our service, the CSL Denver board would like to extend a helping hand where we can. If any of our congregants are in need of help or support, we are ready to help where we can. Please send an email labeled confidential to info@csldenver.org and let us know how we can be of assistance or service to you, and someone will reach out to you. And we also have our practitioners available for prayer work to hold you in that space of knowing the truth of who you are. And you can find our names and phone numbers on our website at www.csldenver.org. And we are having a virtual fellowship via Zoom right after the service. And so you will need to, if you haven't already, send an email to info@csldenver.org and ask for the invite. It's I think Amy has set it up so that it's a constant one. So if you got one last week, you can just click on that same link. And I think that's it for the week. And I want to thank you all so much for joining us on this beautiful, lovely Mother's Day and Spring Day. And please go out and enjoy the good weather while you can, because it's supposed to be kind of rainy later on this afternoon. So we love you and thank you so much for joining us. And that's it.
Sound of your heartbeat feels sweet to me. The sound you're feeling, forever speaking, is guiding. Beautiful to me. You're beautiful, can't you see? Because of you I came to be. Your touch, yes, it calmed me, inspiring divinely. Your wisdom forever guiding. You've never doubted me. I desire thee. Beautiful to me. You're beautiful, can't you see? Because of you I came to be. You're beautiful. The sound is guiding. Oh, beautiful to me. You're beautiful, can't you see? You're beautiful, I came to be. You're beautiful to me.